Ahoy there! I am Sarcastic, and today I am going to be doing some testing on the brand new extinguisher. Today, is it March 28th? Yeah, March 28th, the Valve dropped the Blue Moon update. That's not the official name, but that's what I'm calling it because they added the Blue Moon cosmetic case. But they also did some competitive and casual changes, some bug fixes, but most importantly, to this video at least, they made some changes to the way a few weapons work, but particularly here, the extinguisher and its reskin, the Postal Pummeler. So, a quick overview of the stats of the extinguisher with its new damage mechanics. First thing to note here, this is only the damage of the swing. So like I show later in the video with the experiments, it's not the total damage of the combo, this is the damage of the swing of the axe only. So a normal swing with the extinguisher deals 44 damage. A swing after one shot with the Dragon's Fury deals 98 damage. A swing after 2 shots with the Dragon's Fury deals 114 damage. And then I just now found out that a swing after 3 shots with the Dragon's Fury, after more testing, deals between 126 and 130 damage. But this might be a bug because the Dragon's Fury, it's sort of like, it skips, it stutters with the shots, so it fires one shot, fires a second shot, and then sometimes it'll fire a shot very quickly, and then one will follow right after, which doesn't seem to deal that much more damage in and of itself, but may be affecting the damage of the extinguisher because it's adding more afterburn to it. I'm not sure exactly how it works. The extinguisher, when swung after a quick flaming with other flamethrowers, all the other flamethrowers, they all work the same. Even though the Degreaser has an afterburn penalty, it still works the same. It deals between 108 and 113 damage, with the average being about 110. A swing after sustained flame with other flamethrowers has much more variable damage, between 119 and 148 damage, but with an average of about 130. The damage increases as the longer an enemy is in the flame. So 148 damage is just about the full health of a heavy in terms of surviving flame from the normal flamethrower. So it might be able to go higher. I wasn't able to figure it out in TR Walkway, but it might be able to go even higher for one swing, although I'm guessing that there's a cap. The swing after only one flare shot, and this is true for all the flare guns, the normal flare gun, the Scorch shot, the Detonator, all that. I didn't test the Man Melter, but based on the other ones, I'm pretty sure. The swing after that deals 137 to 141 damage. The swing after a flamethrower and flare gun combo can deal up to 158 to 163 damage in one swing. So without further ado, we'll jump into the actual experimentation. So today, I'm going to be showing what these changes are because they're not exactly straightforward, and I will be trying to explain why the damage from the weapon has a bit of inconsistency and how we can figure out some of why it calculates the damage numbers the way it does, and I'm going to explain exactly what I'm talking about. In case you haven't seen the new stats yet, here they are. And the Axe Extinguisher is still recognizable as the old fire axe that mini crits or crits burning targets, but they've made quite a few significant changes, and in my opinion at least, even before doing the testing that I've done so far, I think that it is in a better state than it was before. But anyway, the stats here read, it mini crits burning targets and extinguishes them. So what that looks like is, hi there, thoughts. You light someone on fire, and then as soon as you hit them, it extinguishes them. And that is a new feature that was not part of the weapon before, but I think it's an interesting one, especially considering this is not my normal HUD. Every update breaks custom HUDs, so I'm not entirely used to it yet. But I think it's fitting because the weapon is called the Axe Extinguisher, and now it extinguishes. But enough with the wordplay for now. So the damage increases based on the remaining duration of Afterburn, and that's the core stat that I'm going to be diving into today, because it's the one with the most inconsistency, but the most potential for making this weapon a viable alternative to the other pyro melee weapons. Also of interest is Sketchek's Bequest. Sketchek was a pretty famous pyro main YouTuber. He did all sorts of cool stuff. You should totally check him out. But essentially, this ability, it says killing blows on burning players grants a speed boost. So what that looks like, you may have noticed it earlier when I killed this. I got so much health. I am moving significantly faster. And then normal speed, and then speed boost. So it is similar to the disciplinary actions speed boost. It lasts about the same time. So I'm going to use a real official method here of counting. 1, 2, 3. Seems about 3 seconds. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I'm sure somebody else can do the calculation. And I'm sure somebody will. But what I am focusing on today is, let's see, I'd mouse over it, but when I mouse over it, it goes away. The way that damage increases based on the remaining duration of Afterburn. Also, to keep in mind, the weapon does come with a 33% damage penalty. So the stock fire axe does 65 damage per swing. This one does 44. Yeah, 44. Which is a pretty significant reduction. That's a third of the damage capacity taken off. But as we'll see, the other the thing with the mini crits and the increased damage more than make up for it, in my opinion. It doesn't get random crits, and the weapon holsters 35% slower. Compared to the old 66% penalty on draw speed, I think this is pretty favorable, in my opinion. But let's jump into the testing. So, let's jump into the most basic damage. I already showed it a little bit, but the normal damage, as it shows on the screen, and I know the text is a little small, but trust me, it reads 44 damage per swing. And that's very consistent because the weapon doesn't get random crit hits. So if somebody is not on fire and you aren't being crits or aren't having a buff banner soldier near you, it will always deal 44 damage, or if they have Durati on them or whatever. There's so many crit mechanics in this game. The next thing is the damage that is dealt on your typical Huff and Sting combo. What I mean by that is setting somebody on fire, air blasting them, and then missing your swing. No, that's not what I meant. Air blast and hit. That's 102. 102 damage. Let's try that again. Because, like I said earlier, and you will see, the damage is somewhat inconsistent. Yeah, that was 113. 116. 110. That's the most typical value that I've been getting. 113. 113. You get the idea. It's significantly less than the typical critical hit damage of the normal fire axe. The normal fire axe and all melee weapons for all the classes except for Scout and Spy deal 195 damage on a critical hit for the normal weapons, the ones that don't have some sort of damage penalty. But the Postal Pummeler, because of its 33% damage penalty, and the fact that it doesn't get full crits when you set people on fire, it gets mini crits plus a certain damage amount, means that you deal about 110 on a typical light on fire, quick switch, and swing combo. I am going to be exploring variations on this combo, though, which I discovered could deal more damage. So, as I found in my experiments, the longer, and as might be predicted by simply reading the item's stats, the damage increases based on remaining duration of Afterburn. So, what that means, or what that seems to mean, is that the longer you hold down the Flamethrower, the more damage it will do. And that did a whopping 163 damage. That's a lot of damage. Oh, gosh, I didn't even mean that. So, 139 damage. It's a bit inconsistent. 122. But that's still more than the 110 value. And if you... 120. If you add into that you are dealing more base damage from the Flamethrower in addition to the extra damage of the swing, like, let's try it on this map here. I did not fire for long enough. I was able to, technically it's not a one-shot, but I was able to finish off the soldier with 129 damage hit. That means that my Flamethrower did at least 71 damage. So yeah. But more importantly, the axe did 129. There are ways to increase this damage, and you may be asking yourself, I'm using the Degreaser. It's got an afterburn damage penalty. So I thought of that. I'm going to switch to my ridiculously named Flamethrower, stock Flamethrower, and let's see what we get. 113, 112, 110, 110. I'm not shooting at the pyros because the pyros have immunity to fire after all. 113, 110. So, as we can see, the stock Flamethrower deals the same damage, so it doesn't depend on the afterburn damage itself, it depends on the amount of time that the afterburn goes for. Which I thought was interesting, and we'll see especially, like, there, that's an interesting thing. Because, you see, I lit him on fire for about the same amount of time, but because I waited a few seconds, that one dealt 105. Because I waited a few seconds, that one dealt 108. It meant 96. It meant that there was less duration of the afterburn to go through, which meant that the axe dealt less damage. So, if you think about that, that means that if you can get the longest possible afterburn time, the extinguisher is going to deal the most damage. 142. And that's more significant than 113. That. A particular instance that I can see this being effective with, in conjunction especially with the... well, it's not recent anymore. It was the Meet Your Match change, which made it so that when a medic is healing somebody and they are on fire, the healing rate is decreased. So it makes the extinguisher, at least in my mind, assuming the heavy doesn't have aimbot tracking, you use your flamethrower on him for quite a bit, and then 151 damage. 151 damage for the extinguisher. You just hold down M1 for a little bit, and then hit the axe. And that burst damage, 139, can be enough to break over the healing barrier. A lot of times, when you're playing Pyro and you are fighting soldiers, demo men, heavies, classes which are higher health, or more likely to have an overheal on them, you'll find yourself dying and then seeing, oh man, they only have 30 health left. With the massive burst damage potential of the new extinguisher, that could be completely... That could be completely gone. A non-issue. 139 damage. That was dealt with the extinguisher alone. 112. Not quite as much, but 139 damage is enough to kill a stock NG with one hit from the extinguisher. Of course, you have to get the flames first, but, you know, what's 4-8 afterburn damage compared to 139 damage from the fire axe? Or from the extinguisher. Anyway, the next thing is the flare gun. I will quickly show, in case you're curious, how the Dragon Slayer, yeah, I got the, or how the Dragon's Fury, yeah, I got the skin for it, jump over now. How it interacts with the extinguisher, because, as many of you probably know, the afterburn from the Dragon's Fury does not last as long as the afterburn from the other flamethrowers. So, does that affect the extinguisher's damage? Well, let's see. 98 damage. Okay. Okay, 98 damage again, but I was a bit slow on the draw. 98 damage. 98 damage. Wow, this is actually more consistent. 98 damage. Yeah, it's because of the... It's a bug that has been happening. I've noticed it. I'm not sure if it's TR Walkway or just TF2 right now. I suppose we'll find out. But that stuttering with the Dragon's Fury, it's really weird. Yeah, that right there. At any rate, though, the Dragon's Fury, I think, then is not the best weapon to combo with the Extinguisher because of that. Although I think it's possible that you could do something like that. And that dealt 130 damage. That's pretty sizable. You know, took down a heavy. So you get 1 or 2 shots, maybe 3, in with the Dragon's Fury, and then you finish them off with an Extinguisher hit. You know, you could just shoot them again with the Dragon's Fury. The difference between the average of like 86 to 84 to 88 damage from the Dragon's Fury on a crit versus the, what is it, 130 of the Extinguisher when you factor in the lag time of switching weapons. It's not really a big deal. But if you need just that last bit of damage to cut through the Heavy's 450 HP overheal, those last, what is it, like, those last 45 damage, right? Let's see, 130, 86. Yeah, those last 145, or those last 45 damage are crucial. So yeah, the last thing that I want to go over is the flare guns. So you've probably seen that I've been carrying around the flare gun this whole time, and so let's just take a look at how the flare gun stacks up. So we saw with the Degreaser and the stock Flamethrower, and there aren't any changes with the Backburner or the Flog. I tested them. It deals about 110 damage when you briefly light somebody on fire and then hit them with the Extinguisher. They're dealt 113. They're dealt 100. That's because I took a little bit longer to hit him. What happens when you hit somebody with the flare gun and then the Extinguisher? Well, this is what happens. 141 damage. 141 damage. 141 damage. Now keep in mind, this is 141 damage just from the Extinguisher. It's more than 141 damage when you factor in the, you know, that's 137, so that was 30, plus 4, plus 137. I didn't realize this was testing my math skills, but that's 171 damage in total. And I think it would have been more if I followed up quicker. Yeah, 141. So it looks like it can go up to 175, which is actually a pretty important damage number, because if we can find a Demo Man, he's down there, but he's going to fall off. That is the health number that a Demo Man can die at if he is at full health but not overhealed. It's true for Pyros as well, but keep in mind that, well, I mean, you definitely can't kill them if you miss like I do, but it just doesn't go quite fast enough. As you see, that kill was not a critical hit. It was just a normal hit because I'd hit him a few times, but even going as fast as you can't get there in time. There's a Demo Man. Speed boost. Okay. Oh, I didn't need to light you on fire. Okay. So yeah. I think there's only one Demo Man spawn, which is why it's not. Okay. So yeah, that was enough to one-shot, well, it's not one-shot, I guess it's a two-shot, funk reference for anybody out there. It's a two-shot combo, and that's with the flare gun and the extinguisher. Now what happens if you shoot somebody with the flamethrower, air blast them, shoot them with the flare gun, and then hit them with the extinguisher? Now that can be a tricky combo to pull off in an actual game, but, you know, let's just say it happens. And I'm not going to air blast because it makes it a little tricky to get the max damage numbers. 158 damage. That's a lot of damage. 158. Man, even the heavies are too weak. 163. 163. 158. Or random crits can finish the job for me. That works too. 158. So we're averaging about 160 with Degreaser, flare gun, extinguisher. Now the Degreaser actually is important because even though the Degreaser's damage with the extinguisher is the same due to it not being based on afterburn damage but based on the duration of afterburn, the Degreaser is important because it holsters 30% faster, and that means that you get just that little bit extra afterburn. Because what I think is happening, because if you look here, about 113 damage with just the Degreaser and the extinguisher, 109, and then with just the flare gun and extinguisher, 141, 137, 137, 141. You get lower numbers than with them together. What I think is happening is that if you are quick enough, the game adds the afterburn duration of the flamethrower and the flare gun, because the way that the flamethrower's afterburn works, I believe, since Jungle Inferno, is that it's based on the amount of time that you had somebody under your, no pun intended, fire. Versus with the flare gun, it has a set number of ticks that it does. So if I WM1 that medic there, he burns for a bit longer, I think, than if I just light this heavy on fire. Well, random crits don't really help my argument. Actually, no, I think that might be the same. At any rate, though, I think what it's doing is stacking the afterburn duration of the flamethrower and the flare gun for the purposes of calculating the remaining duration of the afterburn. I'm also going to show you what that does for the Scorch shot and the Detonator, and I guess also the Man Melter, the other flare guns. Alright, so we've got the Scorch shot here. Okay, 141, 137, 141, 137, 141, 137, 137. Seems to be pretty consistent with the normal flare gun, but let's give it a shot in combo. Okay, 154. It makes it a little tricky because of the knockback from the Scorch shot, but let's see. 163. Now that wasn't our primary target. Let's see what we can do. 150. So it looks like the Scorch shot decreases your damage potential slightly, not because it can't deal the amount of damage, but because of the knockback. Let's see. If you push him up against a wall... Oh, there's some sort of invisible wall here. I don't use TR Walkway very much. 154. So, you may find that your damage in practice with the Scorch shot, with the Degreaser Scorch shot Extinguisher combo, is slightly lower than the flare gun average, but that's only because of the Scorch shot's knockback. And I believe if you fire it at their feet... Oh wait, no, it's based on critical hits, so even if you fire it at their feet, I guess it's kind of inconsistent. Maybe, yeah, it looks like if you fire it at their feet, you can control the knockback so that they are... It seems to be a little inconsistent. At any rate, the stock flare gun when you're going for this combo may be a better option simply because it offers more burst damage as well, but the knockback is a factor in the convenience of doing it. So we're going to try out the Detonator next. Let's see. 137, 141, 141. Seems pretty consistent. Let's try it out. Combo. 158. 158. Now keep in mind, I'm not tallying the total damage of the combos. Just from what I've been keeping track in my head, it looks like the flare gun has the highest total combo potential value, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The Scorch shot might have close to that. Let's see for a sec, because I just thought of something. If you could catch somebody with the double Scorch shot projectile, I wonder if that might deal more damage. Nah, doesn't seem like it. It looks like the extra time that takes offsets any potential damage gains. But as you can see there, you really need that combo damage. If you don't get the flame damage, it's pretty hard to finish off. It's 44 damage a swing. That means you're taking 3 shots to kill light classes, and then let's see, it should be 4 shots for this guy, the medic. Yeah, 4 shots for the medic. 4 shots for Pyro and Demo. And then I think it should be 5 shots for Soldier. Whopping 7 shots for a full health heavy. Now keep in mind, if they're overhealed, that might be even more. On the other hand, oftentimes enemies you find in the field are lower health, so it can definitely vary situationally. At any rate, they probably want to set them on fire first. Actually don't have the answer. But based on the data we collected with the Scorch shot, Detonator, and flare gun, I think it's pretty fair to say that it probably deals somewhere between 137 and 141 damage when you hit them with the... Oh, that was... If you body block them... 163. That gives me an idea. Oh, the problem is the crits. Alright, so that concludes my bit of analysis discussion on the changes to the new extinguisher. As for my opinions, I've been throughout this giving little bits about what I think of this, but for the most part, I really like this. I focused mainly on the damage increases based on the duration, because that's where most of the analysis and the questions of how much damage does it really do come in. But I think that Sketchek's Bequest was both really cool of Valve to put in, to mention him by name, and it also is just really neat as an ability idea. I think that it's balanced well with making it so that it's only on burning players. I mean, I doubt with the 44 damage that the extinguisher does on a hit when enemies aren't burning, it would hardly be abusable, but you never know. And I think it's interesting the way that the extinguisher now extinguishes people after hitting them. I think that's a very interesting thing, and I think it makes it so that that aspect of the extinguisher isn't abusable, because in the past, an issue with the extinguisher had been you hit them, you light them on fire, and then you hit them with the flamethrower, and then you hit them with the extinguisher once, and they're still on fire, and you hit them again for another critical hit, or another mini crit or whatever, and you get this massive damage potential, burst damage, because they're on fire, and they're still on fire, and they're still on fire, and you could get 2 to 3 swings in with the old extinguisher on a heavy who had really bad tracking, and it was kind of ridiculous. So I think it's interesting that they are revitalizing the weapon with these new stats and ideas, but they seem to be doing it thoughtfully. They're not just making changes because, oh, Valve, please buff the extinguisher. Although honestly, in that particular instance, I think that people were right to claim to Valve to buff the extinguisher. But I think that Valve is also right to really think about how they did that buffing, and the addition of the killing blows movement speed. Now, I want to figure out, maybe I'll do it in another video, but somebody else will probably beat me to it. I want to figure out what the difference between the Powerjack's plus 15% move speed and the extinguisher's new speed boost is. Does the extinguisher give a plus 15% boost on kill, or is it like plus 20%? I feel like it's maybe a little bit faster than the Powerjack, but how much? Is it 20%? Is it 25%? And I'm sure this information is going to be on the wiki, but this is, first day impressions. So yeah, I think that I'm very happy to see the extinguisher, and more importantly, the Postal Pummeler, which is one of my favorite weapons in the game, just from its aesthetics. Like, not so much the physical appearance of the model, but this. The kill icon. I love it. Did I just manage to crit him? I feel like I might have. Huh. Let's see. I guess it was a moment of luck. I say the word luck and I get random crits. At any rate, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned something from it, and that this sparks interest in finding out more about the new weapon changes. Thank you very much, and I hope you are having a good day.